Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden. I'm CJ, and today it's going to be a chill stream. We are going to be working on this flags repo that we started last week. So essentially, this is a repo that contains every single country flag, but also region or province or state flags, and sometimes city flags as well. But essentially what we're doing is we're getting this repo ready so that way we can use it in our overlay. Because right now in our overlay, we only allow country flags, but we want to add regions and states and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to be working on today. I think the first thing we'll do is we'll update the JSON file that we'd been creating. So we created this script that generates some metadata of all of the flags in the repo itself. But I want to rethink how we're structuring that. And then once we get it good enough, then we'll actually use it in our front end and our back end so that way we can get it into the overlay. So that's the plan for today. Welcome in, everybody. Glad to have you on this Tuesday. If you're new here, I will show you how all of the overlay stuff works. So you can see that Rogue Soul has the US flag, and then I think that's a Red Hat, like Red Hat Linux logo. You can see Veritatis has the Uganda flag, and then some logo that I don't know. Arjit has the Node.js logo. Luigi has the Brazil flag. I have the US flag in the Dino logo. Simak has the Morocco flag in the Dino logo. One Computer Guy has the Colombia flag in the React logo. So you too can set all of that. So if you want to set your flag, do !flag followed by your 2-character country code. So for me, it's the US. For you, it might be something different, but figure out what your 2-character country code is, !flag, and then that will set it. But the goal is today, it's like if you live in the US, for instance, you'll be able to do like US, Colorado, and then Denver. So once we get this working, that's what I'm going to do so that I can set my flag to the Denver flag. But that doesn't work right now. We're gonna work on that today. Yeah, and thank you for that list, Timon. Actually, I think this might be the wrong ISO list. It's ISO 633, I think. ISO 3166. We should make a command to link this. ISO 3166 Alpha 2. This is the standard that we're going by. And so if it's in this list, you can set your flag to be that. Here. But what I found out, and it's because American 2050 made a pull request to add all of the flags of the Argentina regions. So for instance, if we look at Argentina, and if we go to this Wikipedia repo or Wikipedia article, it talks about how there are all these subdivisions in Argentina, which are either like provinces or cities. So if you are wanting to make a pull request against this repo, Wikipedia is a really good resource. You could start here, go into the specific country, and then see if we already have flags for those given countries. Yeah. Wow, Avi, I'm glad to hear that. You want to link the extension? Avi makes a lot of extensions. Okay, and then after setting your flag, you can also set your icon. So you can choose from the Font Awesome brand cheat sheet. So pick something on here, or you can pick from simple icons. Here. Am I sick? No. I think the thing, like, when I stream, this is like the first time I'm talking today, because I don't talk a lot. So my voice has to warm up. My vocal cords need to warm up. I'm not sick, though. I don't think I'm sick. I feel fine. I do have allergies. I do have, like, a stuffed up nose that I take allergy medicine for. So that could be what you're hearing. Let's check out this extension from Avi. YouTube Auto HD. Nice. Very cool. So I use an extension called Enhancer for YouTube, I think is what it's called. But that's awesome. Congrats on getting that many users. That's really cool. Okay. I am going to set my logo to something. Speaking of allergies, I have to sneeze. The sneeze didn't happen. I thought it was going to happen. I'm going to set mine to Alfred. I didn't know that was on there. So in the chat, I can do !team Alfred. And then I should get a little Alfred hat next to my name like that. That's cool. Yeah, it is currently 10:22 a.m. on Tuesday for me. I know a lot of you are in various parts of the world. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that people don't like the 30-second chat delay, but the thing is, some people like to just spam messages, and I think 30 seconds is perfectly fine. It's just enough time to think through your message and make sure that you're sending a useful message. I guess technically if you want to... I get it now, though. If you're updating your team or your flag, then you would want to check it. So it would be nice to not have to wait 30 seconds to check and see if it worked. I get it. And welcome in. It's not DG. I saw your message earlier. Glad you could be here. All right, we're back down to 10 seconds, but behave yourselves. Behave yourselves. Don't just spam messages. Oh yeah, and you could set your team color. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that my Alfred hat is green is because I have my team color set to green. Because technically, if I didn't set my team color, it would use the default brand color from Simple Icon, so it should be purple. But in my case, I set my team color. So if you do !team-color, you want to send a hex code. Fam? Never heard of it. I'll look into it. We were already using a library, it just didn't have enough flags. We want country and state flags. But !team color followed by a hex code. And then that hex code will set the color of the flag. Or set the color of the, sorry, not the flag, of the team that you're on. Bam? Yeah, so these are just country codes, which is why we started a repo, because there are quite a few libraries that do this, like the top level, which is currently what we're using, because I forget the name of the library that we're using, but we're already using a library that gives us this. We want to go deeper, which is why we didn't really start our own repo. We essentially forked an existing one, but we're already adding more to it than was already there. And Mark Boots, thank you very much for that sub. I did not hear the notification. But Mortal Box, thanks for the 6 months, and Mark Boots with the 9 months. That's awesome. But yeah, so we forked this repo, but then this repo actually was forked from this repo, so this one was last updated in 2017. The one we forked was last updated just last month, which is not bad. But we've already improved it. Someone added the Phoenix flag to this repo, which should be in the US folder, and then the Arizona folder, and then inside of there they added the Phoenix flag, which is cool. So this repo is going to let people make pull requests to add their flag if it's not already in here. And then this will just be, I'm also going to turn it into a library that people can use. So somebody recommended last time that I deployed a Netlify. I did. So right now it was deployed to Versal, but Netlify is nice enough to let me deploy code from an organization without having to pay for it, which is great, because this is I want people to be able to freely use this library. So right now we have the SVG data, but there's a lot more stuff we can add. We could add like a CSS file that would let people bring these in with pure CSS. We're going to have JSON metadata, which will almost be like an API of countries and provinces, and all of that will be consumable from this Netlify endpoint. So yeah. Exactly, Goofer. That's how you would do it. So US, AZ, and then cities. There's no standard for how cities should be abbreviated. So it's usually US, the state name, and then the full city name. But you'll essentially be able to. We'll also build a web page where you can find it. So you'll be able to search across the flags to see if your city exists or your state exists. That's the plan, anyways. All right, let's do a quick hello to everybody, and then we'll get to coding. And Stoney says, I couldn't find a library that has content ratings for TV shows and movies, so I'm starting to make my own. Interesting. And welcome in, funny boy. Hello. Smiles. I would think that this data exists like on IMDb or the Open Movie Database or something like that, but I guess not. That's interesting. Okay. If you would like me to acknowledge you, you can say hi, hello, hello, hey, yo, cheers, greetings, hi, us up, what's up, morning, afternoon, evening, howdy, good day, coding hayo, vohayo, bogahe. Say any one of these things, and I will acknowledge you. And also, yeah, somebody already mentioned FamFam, but like I said, they only have country flags. And the Shibas, two gifted. Whoa, that's that's more than one. Thank you very much, the Shibas. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for the gifts. Where did that message go? Did a mod delete it? That's okay if they did, but I don't see it anymore. Oh, it's way further up there. Maybe that's the same message as earlier, but yeah, we looked at FamFam. It doesn't quite do what we want, at least as far as I can tell. If FamFam has city and province and country flag or in state flags, let me know. And hello, the She-Boss. First one in the chat. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. What's up, Mark and Cesar and Funny Boy and Salahuddin? Salahuddin. I don't know if I've ever said your name right. Salahuddin? Salahuddin. Hushu, how's it going? What's up, Burt Rice and Lil Freezy and Keep It Safe and Watermelon and Capior? And hello, Avi and iRossum and Pablo and Vulture and Super Secret Name. What's up, Stony Eagle and It's Not DG and Java Guy and Lakshman and Luigi and Mr. T. McGush and Interplanet Me and HTTP 404 and One Computer Guy. Hello, Simak and Arjit and Veritatas and Rogue Soul and Goofer and MD Subuntu and Mark Boots and Mortal Box and Danielle and MeathJS and Juan and Hambina and Coding Garden Fan and Creative Null and Play with Fetzy or Fetty. Play with Fetty, sorry. What's up, Media Central Dev? And oh yes, what's up? Hello, Sophia and Moose and Timon and FedM and It's by Therial and Moshiko and Amazingly SK and John Lou Official. Welcome in, everybody. Glad to have you. Let's get into it. Let's just start writing some code. So last time we generated this metadata file. So we essentially wrote code that would look in this directory and then go into each folder and then keep track of each SVG that exists. And at the top level, because the very top level are the actual countries from the ISO 3166 specification, we also included some metadata. So for example, at the top level, we have the name, like Ascension Island or Andorra or United Arab Emirates. So we wrote some code that would look through all of the files and folders and pull this metadata in. However, you can see for top level ones that don't have any subregions, easy enough. But once you start to have subregions, and actually, so this does need to be regenerated because American 2050 made a pull request that added a bunch more regions to Argentina. So before there was only one in the Argentina directory, but they made a pull request that added all of them, which is pretty awesome. Thank you for doing that. So we would need to regenerate this JSON file, which honestly we probably should do a refactor. Like I know last time I said like, oh, this code will never run again, but it seems like when people make pull requests, we would want this code to automatically run, and then we could potentially make this a part of like some continuous integration where if a pull request is accepted, this file gets regenerated. So we might refactor the code today as well. But you can see subregions then have a code, etc. But yeah, it could be a GitHub action that automatically generates this file. But I think one thing I want to do is, so it has the code as C, but I also like on this subregion, I want to specify like maybe I call it like path, and so then it's AR/C like this. So if someone tries to set their flag to AR/C, then we could instantly find it. We wouldn't have to find the I mean, it wouldn't be so hard to find the top level region, and then see if the next region exists, and then see if the next. But we could make a more flat structure where all of the things, regardless of where they are, have a specific path. And then we might also have like a parent code, which would be like AR, something like that. Yeah. And what's up, Jean-Lu? I'm modifying the source code of OSU and the OSU framework because someone thought not adding an option to only have left margin was a good idea. Nice. Good luck with that. Yeah, and then the other thing is name, right? So right now, this doesn't have a name property, but the issue with that is we would want this to be... this couldn't necessarily be auto-generated. I guess maybe it could, honestly, because what we could do is in... Okay, bear with me here. What if we actually also had JSON files for every single flag? So, I mean, the repo would get really messy, but that would allow you to add metadata. So, for instance, we could generate it once, and then there will be an ac.json, and an ad.json, and an ae.json. Inside of there would be the specific info, like just one little object right there. And then inside of... Yeah, it would be interesting if we could put it in the SVG itself. You have a point, funny boy, because then we wouldn't need an extra file. Like, what if there were a way... Yeah, it is just XML. You're totally right. Like, we technically could add a node in here that maybe gets ignored. Because there's definitions. Like, would SVG care if we put a metadata node? Something like name... Ascension Island? I don't know how to spell Ascension. Like that. Yeah, we could potentially put it in a separate namespace. But also, like, this actually would be really cool. There's no formatter for XML? Come on. Oh, why do I not have the official XML extension with 3 million installs? And that, kids, is how you store data and images. Please do not collect usage data. Thank you for your extension, though. Cool. So now it's a little bit easier to read. But essentially, we could put this stuff in here. We could also do something like aspect ratio 2 or whatever it was. And then also like a code AC. Yeah. I don't know, Avi. I think like maybe they created the first one and then it's just picked up, like people have installed it since then. Yeah. Well, that's all. That's glad to hear it, Mike the Tree Climber. There's a lot of stuff you can do with JavaScript, so I'm glad you're doing it. The point is that it would then be kind of difficult to get that information out. Surely way difficult than JSON.parse. Not necessarily though, because I mean there are XML parsers. Like we could use XML to JS that would literally give us this section back as a JSON object, and I'm not opposed to writing that code because. I like this better than separate files, because if you have separate files, that's a separate JSON file for every single SVG, and there are a ton of them. So not only here, but then inside of each folder, there are a bunch of SVGs, and then sometimes there are even more nested folders that have even more SVGs, so that would be a lot of separate JSON files. So yeah, I mean, there is a library, it's called XML to JS, I've used it before. Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, you're right, Pocket Bacon. Like, we actually could do, like, there's a C data thing you could do here that could actually have JSON data inside of it, but I wouldn't be opposed to just making it XML, because then it's nice and readable. Yeah. 1 JSON per folder. Yeah, but so the reason I like this is because let's say you want to go in and give a name to this specific flag with the code C on it. So right now, that would mean in the AR folder, there would be an ar.json file. And yeah, I guess I'm not opposed to that either, Mark. Like, because then it is quite a bit more consumable. And the other thing about putting it in a JSON file like that is like you would be able to access it from the URL. So you could go to like svg / US Colorado. This should give, yeah. So that gives us back the Colorado flag. But if you, for instance, went to Colorado / info. We could come up with a name. Then like that doesn't exist, but that JSON file could have the information about every state in Colorado. Or if you went to US / info.json, that would give you information about every US flag. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Let's do that. One JSON file per folder. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the other interesting thing is like if wouldn't that cause more merge conflicts? That's the thing we're trying to avoid, and the thing we do have to think about. Ultimately, the script that I write, like this metadata.json, the create metadata file, this is going to get much. I guess we had a scripts folder. Yeah, so in scripts, we have create metadata.json. I mean, right now it's spaghetti code. We already talked about this last time. This code was quickly hacked together. What we would want to do is read in an existing JSON file, also look at the folder structure, and then update that JSON file based on the folder structure. Like, for instance, when somebody adds a new flag. That's the kind of code we would have to write here, where if somebody adds a new flag, we would need to write the code that keeps the existing JSON file, but adds to it if there was a new flag added. And then if somebody were to manually edit that JSON file, that could potentially create a conflict when the JSON file is regenerated. These are all the things to consider, for sure, because ultimately we want people to be able to easily add new flags. And I also want them to easily be able to like give a name to the province or the city that the flag belongs to. And that's why I was leaning towards this, because now the data is embedded with the image itself. And so this is just one pull request. One pull request to add a flag that includes all of its metadata. And then when we're generating the JSON, we just pull from that metadata. So that's my argument for putting metadata in the SVG versus a separate JSON file. It is, it's less merge conflicts, and the metadata is co-located with the flag info itself. So if each PR is only one SVG and the code runs after merge, it would probably be fine. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And that's basically what I just described. If a person is making a pull request with a flag, that's only one thing changed. They wouldn't touch the JSON files. And then we also could basically almost just have like a build folder. So right now, Netlify is serving up this entire repo, but we could have a build folder that generates JSON file that shouldn't be touched by humans. It's automatically generated based on the metadata. Yeah. I know everybody wants JSON, but this feels better. I mean, we always could change our mind too. It doesn't have to stay this way. But I like this. I feel like a lot of people in chat don't like it because they're so used to seeing JSON, but XML is a perfectly valid way to store data. But first of all, I want to check and see, will SVG complain if I have this, if I come up with like coding garden metadata or like flags metadata. Prefix flags is not found. And then I would come up with my own namespace like that. Can make an SVG in JSON? No way. Putting the data in the XML doesn't make it way more easy to use the flag and access its data from the front end. Oh, well, the data from the front end will be auto-generated. That's my point here, is that the decision we're making makes this easier to collaborate on. Because if somebody wants to add a new flag, they add it, including all of the metadata in a single file, versus having to update a JSON file. And if they have to update that JSON file, then I need to make sure my automated script doesn't overwrite their changes or like is merged with those changes, which I want to avoid, which would mean that any of the JSON metadata would be auto-generated. That's my whole point here, is I actually don't want users fudging with the JSON because they could mess it up, or they could make it so that it gets overwritten when it's regenerated. Oh, and it wouldn't even be backend. It would be a build step. So basically, whenever we deploy, it could still be static JSON files, but there would be a backend build process that generates those JSON files. So what's up, Codex? Welcome in. So basically, Mark, what I'm saying is, with by putting the metadata here, and then by generating the JSON afterwards, the generated JSON is not touched by humans. So we can ensure that it's in a consistent format, and that generated JSON would be consumable by a front end. That's my point here. Have I convinced you, or do you still think we need JSON files? Yeah, so there will be a JSON file, but it will be auto-generated. Okay, first of all, I want to see, will this SVG even work? I'm going to start up HTTP server. Do I have that? I'm going to install it. So HTTP server is a global command that will start an HTTP server. Wouldn't it be easy to use the data from the XML? Well, in the chat overlay, I would like to just pull from a JSON file, because, like, for instance, in the chat overlay, well, not even that. Like, honestly, the chat overlay could just have a CSS library, because the chat overlay, well, I guess technically, if I want to show tooltips like this, right now I'm showing it's the Lebanon flag. The chat overlay needs that metadata, but otherwise it just needs the flag. And so we could have a CSS library that maps Lebanon, like the Lebanon 2-character code, to the actual SVG. I don't know. Proto-buffs? Why are we talking about proto-buffs? Welcome in, Foji. Yeah, so I have a stream schedule that I've been updating weekly. So if you check the schedule, you should be able to keep track of when I go live. We are 43 minutes into this live stream, but I'll be live again tomorrow at 3 p.m. my time. When you go to this page, it should be in your time zone. It should be. Yeah. Okay. First of all, we need to verify that that this is even going to work. So if we go to svg/ac.svg, it still loads. So yeah, so we're already using that CSS library. That's how we get the Mexico flag there. But we want to create our own, because now we have state and city flags. Glad to hear it, Lakshman. My message didn't go to spam. Okay, does anyone know what I can research to see? Does SVG care about extra metadata? Like, I don't think it even gets stripped out. Like, it's still technically in there, but it's just not going to be displayed. And for instance, if I had like a little, oh yeah, so we already have an HTML file, but if I throw an image tag on here with the source of ac.svg, that should load as well. So in theory, it works. I guess the main issue is we actually would go through and automatically add this metadata to every single one. I guess we would have code, we would have path, which would just be AC, and in this case, parent path, which would be, how do you represent like a null value in XML? Do you just leave it off? Yeah. Okay, so do you have an SVG element metadata? That's even a thing? The metadata SVG element adds metadata to SVG con. I just thought I made that up. This is apparently already a thing. Should it be elements from other XML namespaces such as RDF, etc.? Yes, look at that! Look at that. It looks like they're expecting a namespace. But what is the RDF namespace? So this is definitely a thing that we can do. Resource description framework. Can you show me an example? So should we be using RDF, the RDF namespace? RDF description. True, it could be data attributes, but this looks like it doesn't care about the metadata field. Okay. I think that's what I'm going to do. So right now I actually need to write a script that goes through and updates every single SVG file with its metadata. Then I need to write a script that looks at every SVG file and puts that metadata into a JSON file. Yeah. Cool. Right? Right? Who hates this idea? All right, I'm gonna run a poll. With my 15 plus years of coding experience, this seems like it's the way to go because of maintainability and collaborability. Collaboration. Is this a bad idea? Yes. No. Don't care. Vote now. And that's the main things that I'm thinking about. Like basically, I want other people to be able to add metadata, collaborate, and that gets really messy if you have 1,000-line JSON file that people are trying to collaborate on. Hey, what's up, Trash Dev? Yeah, Trash Dev will tell us if this idea is trash. So here's what we're dealing with. Basically, I have a folder structure that has every single country flag as an SVG file. And then for certain countries, like let's say the US, there's a folder that also has folders inside of it with flags for a given state. But also inside of that folder, there are SVGs files for that given state. So are you in California, Trash Dev? I don't know where you are, but for instance, this would be the California flag. But then if you look in the California folder, then there are flags for cities that have a flag. So basically we have all of this data, all of these SVG files, and I want to create metadata about all of it. So I want to create and store information like the actual name, because right now we just have abbreviations. So I want what is the name of the thing, what's the code, and then also what's the path. So for instance, if you go US, California, are you in LA? San Diego? San Francisco? But for instance, you would do flag, U.S., California, and is there an Orange County flag? There's not an Orange County flag, so you would have to you could make a pull request to add an Orange County flag if there is one, or you could just do in this case, the California flag. So specifically, if someone does US/CA, I need to have that stored in metadata somewhere. Like technically I could write code that like checks to see if that file exists in a folder, but ultimately what I want to do is I want to generate JSON, generate a JSON file that has metadata about all of this stuff. And so this comes to where the solution that has been proposed and that I actually kind of like. Do we first generate a JSON file like at the root here based on the current folder structure, and then as people add new flags, they would need to go in and update that file, or we could have a script that regenerates it. But my issue with that is we are now going to potentially run into conflicts with the generated file versus what people add. So the proposed solution is that in each one of these SVG files, we actually just include a metadata tag. So this is the flag with all of the paths and gradients and stops for Ascension Island, AC. And I think this proposal came from Funny Boy, which I like, which essentially every single flag file will now have a metadata section with name, code, path, and aspect ratio, and potentially a few other properties. But now every SVG file will have this metadata section, and then anytime a new flag is added to the repo, we'll basically look at the metadata of every single SVG file and then pull that into a consumable JSON file. So that's the question. Is it a bad idea to put the metadata in the SVG file? Yeah, and I think we'll try to figure out how to do a namespace, because really this needs to be like coding garden name, or something like this. So, but my whole idea, and the reason that not my idea, Funny Boy came up with it. Yeah, so but the reason that I think this is a good idea is because it makes it way easier to collaborate. Essentially, if somebody wants to add a new flag, they can embed the metadata in the flag that they add, and then we have a build script that runs whenever a pull request is merged to regenerate the JSON based on the metadata that they added. And we talked about it a little bit, but that's opposed to basically having like a separate JSON file for every single SVG, or like an SVG per folder. When I think about it, it just seems like that's a maintainability nightmare, because now when someone wants to add a flag, they need to add 2 files, and then, I don't know. So the metadata is so that this is more consumable. Did I convince you? Well, I'm slowly like convincing myself. Like, yeah, every time I talk about it, it seems like it's a good idea. Yeah, and exactly, we could put this in a GitHub action. So, but I don't know if I'd do a GitHub action, because we have deployed to Netlify. So I think technically I can tell Netlify to run a build script that we define here, and then Netlify will run that anytime it deploys. CG is Creative Commons? Yeah, and so we will basically the JSON that we generate will not be touched by humans. It will only be generated at build time based on the metadata of the SVGs. I think it's easier to maintain. That's what I was like, yeah, with my 15 plus years of experience, it seems like this will probably be more maintainable. 73% of people said, no, it's not a bad idea. Oh, no one said yes? Huh. Okay. I think I'm slowly convincing people. Here's the thing. It could be a horrible idea. You would want the path to be unique. You would want... Yeah, and we definitely would check for that. So essentially, like, we forked this repo. Somebody had already done all the hard work of creating the initial repo. But there's still things that can be added. Like, I just merged a pull request where somebody added all of the flags for all of the provinces in Argentina before there was only one flag in here. So that's why we forked it, because we want to be able to add to it. And because I have a global community, there are a lot of people that will come in and say, oh, hey, my flag isn't there. They can make a PR, and now that makes this repo even better. But when I initially forked it, I wrote a script. This script. It like reads the directories, looks at each individual thing, and then it generates this top level metadata here, which basically tells us what the code is and all of that. So we essentially, there wouldn't be any duplicate paths, because then it would just be a duplicate file. The paths are always unique because they correspond to the file names. Yeah. Oh yeah, the images are XML. So if you're not familiar with the SVG format, SVG is literally just XML code. So yeah. I haven't heard of AppWrite, no. Functional programming prohibits modifying the input parameter. For me, it's a hack because now you own the input. Yeah, I think if you want to keep it functional, you make a copy and then return the value, and then the thing that called the function replaces its value with the returned value. So there's a functional way of doing it, but it is more cumbersome. But you have more guarantees if you do it functionally like that, if you do it without modifying stuff. If you have a JSON with the path, you can make it a single flat folder with UUIDs as names. Yeah, well, I don't like a single flat folder, though, because that seems like it's harder to add new things. I see what you're saying, though. Yeah, they're not JPEGs. And that's the other thing, is we could actually generate, like, PNGs or JPEGs. Like, right now, there's this folder called Mini with the actual, like, generated flags. But this is missing things. So probably what I'm going to do eventually is just remove this folder entirely, and then that also becomes a build step where anytime a new flag gets added, we convert it to like a tiny PNG. Don't think your idea is bad. I would just put the image in the country folder to prevent having a lot of files. It could be country code / flag. Yeah, so that's one update we could make, because right now, for instance, the Argentina flag is at the root. So if you go svg/ar.svg, that's the Argentina flag. But then if you want things within that, it's svg/ar/ a given file. So what we could do, in what you're saying, is we could take that one that's at the root, put it inside the folder called flag. The issue there is not every one of these has sub provinces or sub-regions. So I should use Alpha 3? Why? Is it are there more countries listed? So yeah, what's the difference between ISO Alpha 2 versus ISO Alpha 3? I guess Alpha 3 would have less overlap, but yeah, we run into the same issue, though, that this specification only has, like, these countries here. And, like, what somebody mentioned on a stream last week is they wanted the Wales flag, but technically Wales isn't in this list. Great Britain is in this list, or United Kingdom. Even though Wales is a country, and Ireland is a country, and all that, but there's no... Oh, I guess there is an Ireland. Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Well, England isn't on this list because Great Britain is. And I guess I also learned is that England actually has a flag that is not like the UK flag. Yeah, Ireland's not the UK. Sorry, I have to reiterate, I am geographically ignorant. I apologize about that. So, yeah. Yeah. Ospace says, started my first CS semester a few weeks ago. Hopefully we'll become more than a lurker here soon. Yeah, no worries, Ospace. I think just hanging out with us and listening to what we have to say and all that, it's good. It's good. You might learn a little bit here and there. Through osmosis. Yeah. I think that's the right word, right? So I typically use this program called Visual Studio Code to write my code. They support a lot of different languages and they have extensions and stuff. So that's what I use. There are other things you could use as well, but I prefer this. And then the specific language that I use to code in is called JavaScript, sometimes TypeScript, which is this. This is the actual coding that I do. But you could write this with anything. You could open up Notepad and write this code, but this editor gives me like syntax highlighting and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, in our case, so if you look in SVG, there is GB for Great Britain, and then inside of there's WLS for Wales. And Moose, thanks for the 3 months. Appreciate it. What's the coolest VS Code theme? I think mine's pretty cool, but also pick one that you like. I know there are a lot of well, isn't there's like an osmosis term that's like I don't know how to describe it. Like if you're exposed to a thing, you will soak up some of it that you're exposed to. I don't know. But yeah, if you do !theme, you can get the theme that I use. I like my theme. There's a few themes that a lot of programming YouTubers use that just a whole bunch of people use because they want to copy their favorite YouTubing programmer. Yeah. Just sleep next to my books and hope that I learn by osmosis. Yeah, that's a great use of that. Okay. What do I do when I'm stuck in my code or project? I just walk away. Walk away and come back to it later. Your brain does a lot of subconscious processing that will help you solve bugs or think through an issue, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. I need to figure out how to do an XML namespace. What's up, Crip? Welcome in. W3 Schools. Teach me W3 Schools. Solving the name conflict using a prefix. Is it normal to walk away for 3 weeks? I mean, that's probably too long. You should at least try to revisit it. So I guess what I'm curious about is, though, right now they're saying that this namespace maps to HTML4. But what if I want to create my own? Do I have to publish it somewhere? Yeah, like XML namespace furniture. And then, does this even exist? Yeah, it's not. Do I just come up with a name? I think I do. So I say something like XML namespace coding garden is https://coding.garden/flags. CGF? I mean, should I have this as a sub? And then these, I don't have to prefix? Yeah, I think I'll definitely do something on Hacktoberfest. And that's the other thing is, this would actually be a really easy pull request for somebody that's new to open source. Like if you go in here and you see that your state or your country flag isn't here, you could make a pull request that adds it, and then that would technically count. So yeah, I'm going to try to do something with Hacktoberfest this year. Yeah, well, I did CGF as the namespace because that's Coding Garden Flags. But I guess we could just call it CG. Like that. CG in? Well, yeah, that's why I did F, though, because you can see the URL I put. Because I don't want to just put that. Because what if we come up with other XML namespaces? And so I would want to give it a different URL. I'm going to go with CGF, just to be clear here. Because if we come up with some other XML namespace, then it could be CG some other thing. Right? Okay, so this is what we want. Now, every single SVG file, I want to add this to it. So let's do that programmatically. Because right now we have a script that goes through and generates this metadata.json, but we could update that script so that every time it sees an SVG file, it could add the metadata field to it. So let's do that now. Again, I wrote this comment last time. This is some really hacky code. I'm probably going to get rid of it eventually, but it should work for what we need because it's going to read the top directory right here. And then anytime we're doing item name.split, then that means we specifically, so anytime we have this file path, we specifically have the SVG. And so right now, this get SVG metadata function we wrote last time to actually pull out the width and the height from the SVG. This also is very hacky code. I just wanted to get it working. But now we could have a function that says like update SVG metadata or something like that. So something like update SVG metadata with the file path. And then we could have a function that reads that SVG in with some XML reading library, adds a metadata node with all of the various properties, and then writes it back to the file system. So let's now write a function called update SVG metadata. I mean, technically though, this already reads the file in. I don't want to do it twice. And BGNYC, thank you very much for the 11 months. Much appreciated. What does stop color do? That has to do with gradients, linear gradients. It says where the gradient should stop and then like go to the next color. Yeah. Oh, I have no idea, Stotney. I have no idea. I don't know about... I know that there was some drama with Hacktoberfest last year, but I don't know. I'll have to see. Yeah, and that's eventually what we want to do. Right now, I just want to get it written so that way we can read it in. But Closer 189, thank you very much for that prime. Okay. What if I call this get and update? Get and update SVG metadata. So it gets it, but at the same time, it's also technically updating it. I like that better. Because we're already reading it in, and at this point, once we've read it in, we can pass it to an XML parser. Here. Okay. Yeah. Namespace can just be like text. That's good to know. I like putting it, like I've always seen it as a URL there. So what's going on with those slashes? Oh, these are regular expressions. That's what these slashes mean. So we wrote a regular expression that matches. Here's how you can think about it. So basically, if we look at the this SVG file, we wanted to grab the width and the height out of there because we use that in the JSON file. So we wanted to grab these two properties. So this little bit of code says search that text for when you see width, and that gives us the width. So that's a regular expression, and this is the same thing for height and then also viewbox. Okay, let's find an SVG library. Why not? Because we hacked it together. There's probably a better way to write that regular expression for sure. Because yeah, I mean technically that would have fixed some bugs we had later on because. Well, first of all, I learned that parse int will ignore alpha characters on the end of a number. I did not know that. Codex, I think, taught us that last time. So this removes the letters on the end. Technically, though, if we only matched digits, then we wouldn't even have to do that. So yeah. So the space is because we had a bug where this was actually matching stroke dash width instead of just width. So the space literally says find the thing that starts with the space and then width, which is we explicitly want that space to be there. Okay, I need an SVG library of sorts. I think like technically we could even use like JS DOM. Not really even, no, not SVG. I need an XML library. Because SVG is just XML. Fast XML parser. Validate, parse, and build XML without C and C++ based libraries. Updated 14 days ago. I believe I've used this library before, but it has 5 million weekly downloads. This must be a, yeah, it's some other library depends on this that people download all the time. What's up, Jay? Welcome in. Yeah. Oh, we can read attributes from the XML, but I need a way to do that in JavaScript. There's no standard way of in Node.js of reading in an XML file and like being able to look at nodes and attributes and stuff like that. How to use it. Install it, parse it, and then create a builder. So JObject. Seems fine. I'm gonna install it and try it. Unless I'll give you 30 seconds to tell me a better library that I can use besides this. Rich Harris has an SVG parser? How do I find Rich Harris on NPM? There he is. He's got a lot of packages. XML, SVG. What's up, America 2050? Welcome in. I merged your PR, by the way. Thanks for doing that. It's called SVG parser. It's updated 2 years ago. I bet it is dependent on a fast XML parser. Let's see. Where's dependencies? There's only dev dependencies? Maybe not. Did he literally write the parser from scratch? What? This is why would you Huh. It seems fine, but here's the thing. XML, there's a lot of it's not that easy. So I would rather I would rather use this library because I'm sure they have a very extensive test suite of all the possible types of XML documents that might be thrown at it. I'm gonna go with this library. It has it has 4 security vulnerabilities. That's fine. This is not going to be running in any backend code. So this library, wait. Were there other things even listed in the package.json? Yeah, SVG is just XML code. Yeah. And that's possible. Like that's probably why they wrote that library is because SVG is a subset. A subset of XML, they could actually write a much lighter library because they don't have to write code that would work for all XML, only SVG. Let's see. Oh yeah, SVGO was in here. What the heck is that? This is a dependency that was added by the person that we forked this from. A Node.js tool for optimizing SVG vector graphic files. SVG optimizer. Is this even used anywhere? No, I'm gonna uninstall it. Nice. Okay. So now we have the fast parser. How do we use it? We import it in. And then we create a parser and we say parse. It's possible, yeah, funny boy, it's possible that that's what that does, but it wasn't being used anywhere. Like, I don't think they have any script that generate. It's probably what they use to generate these mini flags, but they didn't commit the code that does that, as far as I could tell. All right, so right about here, we read in the SVG file. We create a parser. We parse the file, which is a string. Parse takes in a string and then gives us back an any type? Man. I was hoping that it would be typed. I'm curious what we get here. Let me just log the JOpsh. So I'm going to just parse the first file that I find when I run the script, and then exit the program, because I just want to see what we get after running the first one. So it is an object. It has a bunch of path properties. It has definitions. Okay. So I need some API docs. I need to see what methods are available to me, because basically now that I have this parsed XML object, I want to add a new node. Like, I want to add a metadata node. And then I want to write that back to the file. So I probably want an XML builder. Let's see. XML builder is complaining. Expected 1 argument, got 0. No options. Okay, so now we get back the XML content, which is any type. I wonder if there are better types for this library somewhere. Let's see what the XML content is for the builder. Oh! Oh! Okay, that is the actual XML. Though it looks like it's missing a bunch of stuff. Like, it has the elements, but it doesn't have the actual data. So if I say jobject.metadata, I mean, really, I want to look at, so we can see how they did that. So linear gradient is an array. So if we look at the first one, linear gradient is an array of values. I kind of want to see what defs looks like, because then we could create something based on that. Oh, it's .svg.defs. So I want to see how Do they have any any elements that just have content inside of them? Let's try. Would it be profitable? No, I like the idea of people just making a PR if they want to add flags. I don't know if I want to do any specific generation. First of all though, I am it perplexes me that the generated XML is missing all of the internal info, right? So we do have like linear gradients and stops, but it doesn't have any of the attributes on it, and that's not good. Yeah, it's missing data. I don't know if that just has to do with how we're logging it. All right, let's look at XML parser. Ignore attributes false. Oh, I think it's ignoring attributes by default. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. That was that's weird that it ignores them by default. Allow Boolean attributes. To allow attributes without a value. Do I need to allow Boolean attributes? I don't think so. It looks like every attribute has in these SVGs has quotes. Format is true. Thanks, Tyler. Where'd you find that, though? Are you looking in the same document as I am? Docs V4. I'm looking at the V4. Oh, yeah, I am looking at V4. Section 7. Yeah, I don't see an issue with allowing Boolean attributes. I think we can keep that to true. And then there's a format option. I like this because then we can, after we write the XML back to the file. Oh, is this not a? These TypeScript types are out of date, I think. This is the parser. I double checked. It seems like the builder would have a format option. Yeah. The parser doesn't need a format option, the builder does. So now, look at that. The output formats it. I don't like these @ signs. What's up with all that? Why? The original doesn't have that, does it? Like if you look at the bottom of the file. They're converted attributes? Attributes converted into nodes. I don't like it. But yeah, you're totally right. It took all of the mask things that should be on the path or on the group and put them onto as attributes. Is there anything else here? To keep the values as is? Attributes name prefix? That doesn't do it. All right, I'm missing chats. I'm just trying to figure this out. It transforms attributes as tag values. Yeah. Is it? Oh, you might be right on the output. Let's see if we don't do that. No, it's still technically doing it. Like this @ miter limit, which technically should be an attribute of path. So yeah, this attribute name prefix, if we add that, it looks like that's the default. Is that what I need, Tyler? I need both of them, and then it will... do I need that for both the builder and the parser? Yeah, I think you're right. I am Ratzer. Well, I think if we specify it on both, so we specify it here so that when it parses it in, it sets that, and then we specify it here so that way when we serialize it, it puts them back as attributes. That seems better, but yeah, now it's doing @_. This is better. I believe, and we can put format true back. I believe they are now attributes, but now the attributes have a prefix. Like, oh. And then why are there all these SVGs? Yeah. XML, because that's what SVG is. SVG is an XML, so we're specifically reading this in and then adding some attributes. Okay, do we want to go use that Rich Harris SVG parser one? Does this have the ability to write SVGs as well? Parse? I think you can only parse them. It can't write them. Yeah, I mean, something like Cheerio or JSDOM probably could work as well. I'm curious. I'm just gonna test that out with JSDOM, because JSDOM supports any kind of HTML, and then we could just do like root element dot append child metadata. Yeah, let's try it. Because this is weird, and the fast XML parser docs are like all over the place. So I'm gonna try JSDOM. Okay. Yeah, so JSDOM works very similar to Cheerio, except it uses like the native DOM API. So this should work like you're thinking, Lakwarzek. Okay, let's comment that out. We're gonna import and comment this out. JSDOM from JSDOM. And then we can create the DOM and then query it. Yeah, I mean, Cheerio is pretty nice. It's not horrible, but right. I need to do this. like that. Exactly, Lockerzak. Basically, it it works. Cheerio is like jQuery. JS DOM is like native JS, essentially. Okay, and then if I do DOM dot document dot query selector SVG, so find DOM dot how does this work? Oh, dom.window.document is what I want. Query selector SVG. And then if we just log SVG, let's see what we get. Oh, not that. There it is. It's an SVG element. That's great. And then if I do like defs, that would be SVG query selector defs, which would be the definitions. And then we could query selector that for linear gradient. Query selector all linear gradient. Also, could I do like defs dot outer HTML? Yes. Yes. So it's definitely a thing. Okay. So if I want to say the metadata element, it's a new oh, how do I do this? It's going to be JS DOM. Oh no, this should just be DOM.create element. DOM.window.document.create element. Yeah, like this. I want to create a metadata element. A Coding Garden metadata element. Right? I totally forgot what our format was going to be. No, just metadata, because metadata is supported by the standard. And then I could say metadata element.inner HTML is a little thing like this with the Coding Garden flag element on it. Thank you, funny boy. And then from there, we have name, which would be, we'll just test this out. Test. Code. Test. Path. Aspect ratio. And then we could say svg.append prepend inserts nodes before the first child of the node. So if we say prepend the metadata element, that should put it above definitions. And then if we just log svg.outer HTML, that should have the metadata inside of it. We just want like the start at 0. Give me the first 200 characters. There it is. It's happening. Give me the first 800 characters. So yeah, this does it. So there's the SVG. There is our metadata field, metadata, and then the rest of it. Okay, this is a good sign. The other thing is we could add an attribute on the SVG, because I could say SVG dot attribute, add attribute, set attribute. And Irossum, thank you very much for that gift. You're too kind. You're too kind. The namespace was coding garden flags. Thank you. So I want to set the attribute XML namespace CGF, and I want to set that to https://coding.garden/flags. Cool. So now if I do that, the SVG thing should have, yeah, look at that. This is cool, but I spelled garden wrong. This is kind of amazing. I'm really surprised that JS DOM of all libraries is doing what we want. But that makes sense because SVG is XML, which can exist in the DOM. So, yeah, that's a thing. This is great. Okay, so all right, we're gonna get rid of XML parser. Let me uninstall this. Cool. So now when we get and update SVG metadata, not only do we want to pass in the file path, we want to pass in the info, so that I can do info.name and info.code. I have not tried Happy DOM. I read about it in vtest, but I have not tried it. Something like that. What's up, nap time? Welcome in. And Chai Tea Coder, how's it going? I don't know if I said hello to you. Okay. I think this is where the namespace came in. Oh, is there like literally a method I can call to do that? dom.window.document.create element namespace. Returns an element with namespace. I see. Yeah, so that would be similar to create element, but in this case, I'm creating the metadata element and then putting some stuff on it. I guess we are assuming that metadata doesn't exist. I'm gonna search the whole code base for this because it's possible. Yeah, look at this. Some of the SVGs already have a metadata property. I guess you technically can have multiple. That's good. So you can have multiple metadatas in a single file. Oh, this was generated using Inkscape. Okay. I guess I should probably give it an ID. Or do I just get access to that? Yeah, ID is coding garden metadata. Something like that. So then when we're pulling the metadata out later, we can specify it by ID. Cool. I was thinking that we needed to add a separate, or we needed to update the existing metadata element, but from what I can see, we can actually have multiple metadata elements, so it doesn't hurt to add a new one here. Okay. This whole parsing piece, which grabs the width and the height, I'm going to pull into a separate function. Get XML aspect. Get XML dimensions. Welcome in, Leak Geek. XML data. I think I just called it file. Cool. So before we do all this business, we can say dimensions equals get XML dimensions with the file path and the file, like that. And Manuel, welcome in. Glad to have you. We write the metadata. We return the dimensions. And in this case, yeah, it returns width and height. Great. But now that we have the dimensions, we can do width divided by height here. Oh, I need to plug my battery in. Thanks. Thanks, Loco. Possibly undefined. It won't be undefined because I'm pretty sure we literally exit the program if this is undefined. Yeah, we do a process.exit, so that's fine. Okay, now I need info. Info is going to be an object that has name, code, and path. I need to put this into a variable. Territory name is that. And the code. And right now it's the path. It's all the same. Actually, no, it's not. This would actually be territory dot name, I believe, because get territory gives us back a name. Cool. Yeah, I totally forgot to update the today's working on command, but we're working on flags for the overlay. Right now, we are updating an SVG files with a metadata attribute. After we're done doing that, we'll then write code that can read in all of those metadata attributes to generate some JSON. All right. I need to find all the places where I call this function and make sure I pass in the right stuff. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, this is a perfect use case for actually using TypeScript. That's the other thing, is I'm not even using TypeScript right now. I'm just using JavaScript with TypeScript checking. And right now that info thing has the any type. I'm not going to worry about it. And actually, this is the territory code. Like that. I'm not going to worry about it just because this code will be thrown away, because we're going to write new code that then parses all the SVGs. But yeah, let me update the working on command real quick. Cool. Today command is updated. Is path necessary? Wouldn't the file structure work? I only want that there because I want to put that into the JSON. So that way, if you do, or I guess the example here is if I go to US, Colorado, Denver like this, I want to be able to easily find that flag based on this path. Though you're right, technically when I'm parsing the directory structure, I could put that path in. I like it being in the file, though. What's this? Potrace? Oh, it like creates an outline version of the image. Interesting. All right. First time we call it is there. So I want to pass in this subregion dot name is actually the code, I believe. And then the path is going to be region directory name slash that. Oh, actually, it would just be the file path. I think the file path is going to have SVG on it. Yeah. Using file path without sanitizing is a door frag. I'm the only one that's ever going to run this code. I don't have to worry about that. This code gets thrown away once we start parsing SVGs. Okay. And then the name. So when it's a subregion, right now there is no name. So people would have to manually add that in the metadata. And actually, I am going to write this out. This is just going to be region.name slash subregion.name. Because the file path would include the word SVG in there, and I don't think I want that. Like that. Cool. And then this is a subregion. Actually, this is the same. If put your path in a JSON, use the chat. That's a whole insert. Oh, it won't ever be doing any directory. I see what you're saying, but that'll never happen. Ultimately, it's going to be an HTTP request to this, where it'll be like svg/colorado/denver.svg. And then at this point, this server would need to make sure that it's not vulnerable to directory traversing, but and it's not because of the way this thing is deployed. Like, you couldn't go up a directory, like, yeah, this wouldn't work on here because of the way this thing is deployed, but I see what you're saying. Normally you would have to worry about that, but this is the only place we're using the path. The path is to identify the flag and to get its HTTP serving path. Region.name. Wait. Where is region defined? If it's a directory, great. This code is so messy. It's really hard to know what this code is even doing. Oh no, this, I see. This is like multiple levels deep. This is like the third level deep. Well, I said that earlier, American 2050, but because we have this new idea of how we're storing the metadata, there will be a separate script that runs. Basically, I want to get the metadata into the files, then I'm going to write a new script that is more maintainable, and that's the script that would run on build. Yeah. But yeah, this is bad code. We're just going to throw this away. We're never going to look at it again. Yeah. Okay. Region.name.split. If get region returns nothing, return. Oh, it would return nothing if like it was a README file. Okay. That's why we're doing that. Why is this so... What I'm confused about is the fact that I'm using this region variable, but I'm not using the actual region that got generated. Oh, I am using it right here. Okay. Because now this can just be r.code. Okay, this is it. I think that's it. So what I'm going to do is instead of exiting whenever we do this here, I'm actually just going to print out the metadata element. We're not going to prepend it. We're not going to exit. We're just going to log metadata element.outer.html just to see the metadata of all of the things. All right, here we go. Not that. This. It's happening. So we can see that some of these don't have a name, like Santa Ana is a city, but right now we have no way of knowing that the actual name of the city is Santa Ana. But this would have been added to it. And we can see this has CA Santa Ana SVG. So I actually need to fix that. That was here. So this would be item name. SVG. We're missing US slash... We're missing slash US. So really we need territory. I think we have access to that right here. Here. Is territory the top level? It is. So yeah, this code isn't going to generate JSON anymore. Like when I'm done with this code, it's going to be updating the SVG files. And then after all of that's good to go, I'm going to write code that actually parses the SVG files, because that's the code that would need to run when somebody adds a new flag. So basically when somebody adds a new flag in a pull request, it gets merged in. We then have a build script that pulls out the metadata from the flag that they added and then adds that to some JSON. But that code doesn't exist yet. All right, we need better variable names. This is not it. I thought this was as deep as it goes. I think I was wrong. This actually needs to go in here, like this. Like this. Yeah, territory, region, subregion. That code makes sense. Okay. So now, for like all of the Argentina flags, this makes sense. Like AR/U, AR/V. I guess technically we don't really even need a code in the subregions, but it's fine. That's fine. Honestly, though, we don't even use it. I'm going to get rid of it. No, it makes sense to have at the top level, because that technically is the ISO code. Welcome in, Eric. Glad to have you. Codes for things that have no name. Well, the hope is that eventually they will have a name. So like Huntington Beach. I need to fix that. So right now the code that I'm passing in for Huntington Beach is this. Subregion code is that. And then this goes right there. So that would replace that, and then the path needs to have the subregion code as well. So for instance, these cities in California, the code would be Fresno, the path would be USCA Fresno, and then we would automatically add the .svg on there. We don't want that in there. Okay. US/LA? Oh, Louisiana. I was like, what state has an abbreviation of LA? It's Louisiana, so that's fine. And then US, LA, New Orleans, US, LA, Baton Rouge. All right, I think we've done it. Now, I'm actually going to write this info to the XML file. I think the issue here is, like, once I write this to the file, I want to make sure that this is very editable within the file, like this. So that way when it writes it, someone that goes to that file will be able to easily update the metadata like this. So when they come across this SVG file, they look at it and they open it up, they'll actually see this metadata on there. And then they could easily just go in and edit it. So like there's spacing between it. Like I don't want to find like a formatting library. I want to leave the XML as is, but just with some extra stuff on there. This has doc name, and then we also should have, yeah, the CGF thing. Cool. I think it's good. Yeah, so that's what the name property is for. So right now, if we look at US, it's going to have the name United States of America because that comes from the country metadata. But if we look at US/CA, that doesn't have the name California because right now that data isn't stored anywhere. But that name will be empty, and then someone can actually make a pull request that puts the name California in there. And I guess technically, yeah, we might as well do some work for them. So whenever we have this subregion, we can get a friendly name here. Because the subregion is always going to be a full city name, I believe anyways. Subregion split on underscores. Map over that to get each word. And then we want word at 0 to uppercase plus word dot substring of 1. What happens if you do substring of 1 on a string? What's up, Malik? Welcome in. New Orleans. Or no, really just want like Orleans. Substring 1. That's what I want. Get rid of the first letter. Cool. And then join that all together on a space. So this should give us a friendly name for these subregions like New Orleans and stuff like that. Okay. Here we go again. Oh. I mean, technically, that's all right. I just want to see when we get to California. Yeah, like Cupertino, exactly. So this actually helps because when there's a city, in this case, U.S. states are the only ones that have cities right now. Every other country just has provinces. But like if there's a city, we can go ahead and say that, yeah, the name of the city is Cupertino. I guess one last thing is I want, do I need a parent property? Like, my thought is because we have this path here, this has all the info we need. Like, we know who the parent is because of the path, and we know who its parent is. So, really, should I just call this path code instead? I think you're the only... Yes, Pablo, you're the only one who can't hear me. I see my audio monitor. What's up? Stream to D-Stream. Welcome in. Help me out. I need some code opinions. What do you all think about this metadata here? Like, is code redundant since we have path, and should we just rename path? Stream Toad Stream? Is that what it is? Welcome in. What if the structure changes? It won't. We have to keep the structure. Yeah, so I think we leave path, but like we just rename it to, I guess we just call it path. And then get rid of code. Stream to D-Stream, cool. Decoupling asks to differentiate internal code with external reference. I don't know what you mean by that, but is it that we can basically figure out what the parent code is just based on the path? Yeah. I just need a better name for this, and then I'm going to get rid of code. So code won't be in there. We'll just have name, path, aspect ratio. But can we come up with a better name for path? Technically, it is a file path because this is how. So, for instance, I could grab this, append, put /svg and put prepend and append svg on it, and we could get this flag. So if I go to this here, I can go to /svg /that.svg, and that will load the Coronado flag. Like that. Slug. I like slug. Cool. Origin? Origin's good too. ID. Okay, these are all good options. We've got ID, we've got origin, slug, route. Yeah, you're totally right, American 2050. I didn't even think about that. Path is used to actually define like a line in an SVG. So yeah, we definitely don't want to do path. I like slug. The only issue is like it's not even really a slug because a slug usually has dashes in it instead of slashes. Route. Thing. Location. I want to go with route. I like route. All right. Let's look at it one more time at a glance. URI. Oh. Yeah, I would want to. I mean, technically, I think that's why we should namespace these as well, because we technically we technically could be overwriting existing element names if we did that. All right, let's vote on route versus URI. I kind of do. I do like URI. We'll see though. Also, ID is generic enough that I'm gonna throw that in as an option. All right, and we will namespace it like that. URI, yeah, you're right. Like an actual URI would include, if we're going by the actual definition of a URI, it needs a protocol. That's why this actually is it's a path. It technically is a path. This is a path. If we namespace it, I think it's okay to put path on there. Namespace just means that we don't want conflicts. So the fact that I'm prepending this here, that gives it a specific namespace. Yeah, Earth, U.S. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people like route. Route was the winner. Let's go with route. Route is generic enough. And it's not even a URI, it's a URN. You were able to vote 5 times? There's no way. I think that's a Twitch bug. What did you vote for, American 2050? Be honest, if you voted 5 times. Redo? What did you vote for? There's no way that I checked. I didn't check that, did I? One more time. Vote again. Everyone's just saying path or route. Okay, we'll go with route. Route. Cool. Now we'll just write it back to the file. So we wrote it to the document, and then now if I do svg.outer.html, I should be able to write this back to the file itself. Okay, you can only vote once. That's good. So now if I do fs.writeFileSynchronous, I'm basically going to overwrite the file that we just read in, and then the data is the outer HTML. UTF-8. Why is this complaining? That's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, this is the definition of bike shedding, but also, like, I want to get this right because I'm literally about to overwrite all of these SVG files. I'm literally about to put this SVG code in there, so I want to make sure I get it right. There's nothing stopping me from going in and renaming it, like, with a script, but okay. And then I'm going to log the file path. Updated. Like that. All right. I'm only going to update the first one. And let's see what happens. All right. So if we look at svg/ac.svg, this one, we can see that it now has that metadata. And there it is. Ascension Island, the route is AC, the aspect ratio is 2. Beautiful. Keep the originals in a separate folder? Nah, that's why we have Git history. Here I go. I'm about to overwrite every single one. Actually, this makes sense. I am going to remove this. Technically, I should write the code to look for this metadata attribute with ID CGF metadata. I'm just going to delete this. Test if it still works just to be sure. What do you mean? Didn't I just test it? Here we go. We're just going to update it. Actually, I'm going to commit right now. Committing before updating everything. Okay, so now I have a place that I can roll back to. Here we go. $896 changes. Oh, glad to hear that macaroni pizza pie. Yeah, we ended up adding a couple of extra like the European Union and United Nations and stuff like that. Okay, so now if we look at this, it has metadata, AR/A. Doesn't have a name, but we could someone could make a PR to put the names in here. For instance, if we look at US, Colorado, Denver, has the name Denver with USCO Denver, has that aspect ratio. Cool. Once I have province names, will the code be able to inject them? Possibly, like I could look and find an API that lets me, if the, so for instance, these states, for the US, this is the actual state abbreviation. So we could tap into an API to grab the name of this to put right there. I don't know if there's a single unified API for like province abbreviations though. But yeah, you're right. Sorry, there's a bunch of noise. My dog's moving around upstairs. Let's use this moment to take a pause. Cool. Yeah, American 2050. I mean, You could find a way to automate it though. You could actually, like, you could create that JSON file and then go through and update all of the SVGs to include the name. Or you could just manually go in and edit each one of these. But that's basically what I was trying to avoid. Like, I don't want to have a JSON file that corresponds here. Basically, now that these exist, you got to go in and manually put the name there. You, of course, could write a script that reads the file in, places this property. So, yeah. Yeah. So now, basically, once I commit this, there's going to be a placeholder that you can go in and fill in. And how you fill it in is totally up to you. Okay. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and push this up to GitHub. If you all could do me a favor, after I push this up, there's a Google Sheet that lists the names. I never clicked that Google Sheet. Oh. Wow. Here's all our metadata right here. And it's slowly loading all of the flags in here. Okay, but I see that it has GB, like GB/England, GB/NIR. It looks like they only have the top level. Oh, so there are subdivisions. Okay. Yeah, then US-CO. So they've already done it. The only issue is, like, this is partial because, for instance, America 2050 just added all of the ones for Argentina. And then there are a bunch that are missing, right? So this only has a few of them. This is cool, but I'm just going to... If somebody wants to add it, they can write a script that does it, or they could do it manually. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, Mark, is just, like Mark said, like, you can do it manually, or if you really want to be efficient about it, you could write a script that reads that in and then automatically adds the name based on that. I'll definitely write some example code that shows you how to use JSDOM to read in and, like, specifically update the name attribute. Because right now, this code creates a metadata element, but you technically could write code that finds this specific attribute or field, the specific property, updates it, and then writes it. What's up, Drills? Welcome in. Okay, I'm going to commit this now. That's almost 900 files updated. Cool. Well, welcome in. Glad you got updated. I think my return dimensions is in the wrong function. Oh no, it's in both. I'll show you. The code is really hacky, but basically there's all of this mess that eventually, if it finds the dimensions, it returns an object. So the return is here, and then that return gets put into this variable, which then gets returned here. But this has to do with the code we wrote last time, where basically if this failed, we just exited the program. We didn't even want it to return an object because that means we needed to update our parsing. So, like I said, this code is really hacky. Like, technically, there should be a return down here, but the way we wrote this is it only returns if we were actually able to grab that width and height property. Okay. What now? Now I'm going to write a new script. I'm going to forget that ever existed. Yeah, we could do stuff like that, American 2050, like, absolutely. I also want to write, like, a little CSS library. So it'll work very similar to this CSS library, because if you look at the source for this, like, this is technically a span where we put flag icon and then the country code. And then behind the scenes, it loads in an SVG. We could write our own SVG library that now works for subdivisions. So like flag icon CO or US-CO would give us Colorado, or US-CO-Denver would give us Denver. And then we could have CSS code like this. But we could auto-generate that CSS file as well. We could do a whole lot of auto-generated stuff, basically. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to go through every single SVG, or every single folder here, and every single SVG, pull out that metadata, put it into a JSON file at the top level. So let's create a new file, and let's call this generate. I'm just going to call it generate JSON. This will be a script that would run at build time. Yeah, auto-generating is the essence of programming. Exactly. Like, if we can basically define things so that they're in a consumable way, which we've now done with the SVGs, now we can have a script that will auto-generate all of the metadata, auto-generate the CSS, auto-generate the JavaScript library, all that stuff. Some folders had MD. Right now, my code was just ignoring the README files. So that's fine. Okay. We're going to write this in a maintainable fashion. So last time we did a bunch of spaghetti code. This time we're going to write it more maintainable. So I'm going to bring in FS from FS. And you might be wondering, why is this MJS? So MJS stands for module.js. So that right now I'm writing in Node.js. The MJS extension lets me use the import syntax, which you, I think technically I need to do node fs, which lets me use import syntax inside of Node.js instead of having to do require in module.exports, and instead of having to set the package type to module. So read in fs. I want a function that, let's just call it parse directory, because we'll be able to call this recursively. So we get the directory path. We read it in. And then for each item, and actually, I could have copied the code before, but I think there's an option to say with file type. So now I can, this will read all the files in a directory, but it'll also give me back metadata, so I can say, is that a directory or is that a file? So now for every item in the directory, we'll say if item.is directory, then we make a recursive call. So we'll say parse directory with item.name. But we technically want to create a full path with the parent directory and this current directory. So we're going to pull path in from node as well. And so we'll say path.join. Let's just call this directory to be a little less verbose. So join the directory with the item name, because that'll give us a folder path. So that will recursively parse the next directory. But if it wasn't a directory, then we have a specific item that we want to pull the metadata out of. So we can say metadata, is going to be, let's say, get metadata from, and actually we can just put this into a variable. Let's call this the item path. Because then we can use that item path to read that SVG file in. And then once we have the metadata, we probably want an array of metadatas. Like this. So we can pass in the metadatas here. But then here we'll say metadatas.push metadata. And at the end of it all, we return metadatas. So now I need to write this get metadata function. And this takes in the what's the file path. And this is where we can copy some of the code we did before. Here, where we read in the SVG, do the JS DOM stuff, but specifically we're going to be pulling out the metadata. We need this. Wouldn't maintainable mode be better to use a filter and split the code directories and then files? What do you mean? But we'll say if item path ends with SVG. So if it doesn't end with SVG, we're going to ignore this. I just thought of that. Cool. So read the SVG file in. We grab the SVG, and then we'll say the metadata element will be SVG. Let's grab metadata. Actually, we want to query selector all. Actually, we can grab it by ID. What's up, Super Posse? Yeah, there's quite a few coding streamers here on Twitch. I am just but one. I'm just one of them. Yeah, like Mark is saying, we're going to select by ID because there are multiple metadata attributes. So really we want to select like this. So right now we're writing some code that parses this directory that has a bunch of SVG files in it. We just wrote the code that puts metadata into the SVG. So we just put this info into all of them, and now we're reading that back out because this code that reads it back out is going to be basically a build script. So if somebody adds a new SVG to this repo, we'll rerun this to pull the metadata out. So I want to just do a query selector against this. So metadata, find the element that has the ID attribute CGF metadata, and then say if metadata element. Actually, if it's not there, we need to throw an error. Throw new error. Say file path is missing metadata. What do you call that? Element. Metadata element. But if it does exist, we'll grab it out. So we'll say metadata is an object like this. We can say metadata element. Well, we'll say the name is metadata element. Give me the element that has these specific properties. Ooh, is that what I want? That's probably a better selector. Thank you. Yeah, that's much simpler. Like that. Cool. But let's remind ourselves what the metadata looks like. I keep forgetting. So I should be able to say query selector CGF name dot text content like that. And then we do the same thing for route and the same thing for aspect dash ratio. like that. Get attributes in S. These aren't attributes though. These are specifically fields, right? Let's see if this works. And then really I just want to return that. So name, route, and aspect ratio. That's all it is. Huh. Huh. All right. And then I'm just going to say log we'll parse directory with SVG. And log it out. Is it going to work on the first try? What do you all think? You want to take bets? I think the one place that things could go wrong are this. Like, I thought these were elements that I could select by name, like this. No way it works on the first try. We'll do a bet. We'll do a bet. Because for the most part, this looks good. So if it's a directory, keep on parsing. If it's not a directory, grab the metadata. It should go all the way down. Yeah, this is definitely going to work on the first try. Definitely. It's been a while since I wrote code like this that actually did work on the first try. It's just a tag main? Yeah. But here we go. We're going to do a new prediction. Yeah, we could run into like a Stack Overflow because there's too much predictions. Will it work without errors on the first try? Yes. No. You have 30 seconds to predict. You're going all in? And to be fair, I can't make any updates. The code will run just like this. So, wow. So a lot of people are saying no. Like, if you vote yes right now, you could win so many points. I don't know Solidity. Okay. Here it goes, everybody. Are you ready? Dang it. Dang it. All right. Yeah, unknown pseudo class selector. So that's the issue that we ran into. It doesn't know how to find this. Give me my points. All right, you can have them. But here's the thing. If that's all I messed up, that's kind of amazing, isn't it? You gotta believe. What's up, Electrothermal? Hope you're doing all right. I don't know if I answered it, but no, I do not know Solidity. That's the smart contract thing, right? Okay. We'll run another one after I fix this. So how do you select an element that has a weird name like that? Select element with namespace. Get elements by tag name in S. And it's still, yeah, you're right, Acid Spark, but also that's mean. That's mean. It still has been a long time since I wrote code like that. Get elements by tag name. I don't even know what the ins does. Get element in S. I'm just gonna try this. I'm just gonna. I mean, I probably should look it up. So, get elements will return an array. So I actually want the first one in the array. There should only be one. But also, I'm gonna go look at this method on MDN to see if this is what I actually want. Oh, no worries, SQL Gorster. We'll figure it out. Returns a list of elements with a given tag name belonging to the given namespace. Oh! So you pass in namespace and then the specific tag name that we want. That seems more likely. Is that what I need? I'll try that after this, Jicom Gaming. I Googled it. I mean, we're still going to do a prediction. So first of all, will it work without errors on the first try? No. Sorry. Sorry, everybody that believed in me. But we'll do another one. Do you think this will work? Here you go. You got 30 seconds to vote. I will show this SVG. So basically, we are first of all, we're grabbing metadata, and then within that, we're grabbing these. A few more believers than last time. 20,000 on yes. But wait, there's only 16,000 total. Oh, never mind. This is the previous prediction that got... You all got to predict, right? Right? Yes. Yes? Oh, look at that. You got nice little prediction badges. Everybody say hi in chat. We can see your prediction badges. Predicted 1. Oh, you didn't get prediction? That's unfortunate, American 2050. But we're still about to go. What's up, Age Monkey? First try, Metadatas. Hello, Pagoli. Welcome in. Okay, here we go. Drum roll, please. Cannot be properties of undefined. Let's go. It didn't work. It didn't work. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm really letting you down today. And I apologize. Ultimately, this is just something I've never done before, so let's see if escaping it like someone suggested will work. Guess I'm poor now. Alright, let's see if we can escape it. We might only need 1 slash. Alright, I'm not going to do any more predictions, because at this point I'm just throwing code at it to see if it works. I think that worked. I think that worked. It's taking a while to run. I mean, yes! Oh, look at that. So, I mean, here's the thing. All I got wrong was the selector. This recursive directory looking, that worked first try. I didn't have to touch it. But now we have an array of every possible flag with a route and an aspect ratio. I'm proud of this. This is good. So, yeah. At this point, I want to actually write it to a file, and I think I will just call it metadata.json. Yeah. So, fs write file sync metadata.json. Though, I'm trying to think if I want like a dist directory. Yeah, right now, empty string is correct because somebody needs to fill that in. But the idea is they won't fill it in the JSON file. They'll put it in the SVG file. This will be regenerated and will have the name inside of it. Yeah, so... Metadatas. No, I'm going to call it metadata. The existing metadata one has a more nested structure. Like this. Like this. But I don't want the nested structure. I want the flat structure like this. I'm going to upload a super scalable graphics. Oh, wait. SVG file to break it? Is that what you mean? Data or data? I switch between them. Data. All right. Is everyone ready to just delete this code? Type 1 in chat if I should just delete this file and never think about it again. Is there anything useful in here? I guess technically the aspect ratio parsing was somewhat useful. Lots of question marks in that code. Lots of red squigglies too. All right, I'm just going to delete it. It's in the Git history, so yeah, it's gone. Okay. I guess technically we don't need these countries anymore either. Okay, cool. Let's run it one more time so that it actually overwrites the file. Generate metadata JSON. Now, it makes sense that it takes a while to run. It literally needs to read in 900 files to in turn create this metadata file. That's not horrible, though. That's like 20-ish seconds. But now, we've got this. I'm thinking I think I want to create a dist folder though. Because I want people to know that they should not modify this file directly. They should and I'll have like a contributing guide. They shouldn't modify this file. They technically should update the XML file, which can then be updated, which would then regenerate this. So dist/metadata.json, and we'll actually write two files. We'll put metadata.min.json, and this will not have any formatting. All right. Run it one more time, and then I should be able to push this code up and then just use it in the overlay. And that's how we'll end the stream there. We're basically, now that this exists, my overlay should, in my API, should allow people to set their flags based on this metadata, and then we'll be able to pull the flag in from Netlify. I would trust less people editing SVGs versus editing a JSON file. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but I don't like the idea of 900 little JSON files hanging around here. I guess technically we didn't have to do 900. We could have just done like one for every country. But even then, I don't know. One JSON per country? Yeah. But now we have a dist folder with nice readable metadata and then also a minified one. There. Great. Yeah, so if I push this up, Netlify should auto-deploy it, and then I should get access to those JSON files. However, I do want to add cores. So yeah, that would have been 192 JSON files. I don't know. I don't think there's trade-offs every way you go about it. Should we round the aspect ratio? Nah. Okay, I looked this up earlier. I think there's a way to say that the files inside of a Netlify deployment should have the cores headers. So that way, if a front end requests this JSON file, it'll have access control allow origin star. In our case, though, this is an Electron app, so I don't think it would even have to care about cores. Actually, I think it would. But regardless, netlify static files cores. Someone said they should do it by default. Is it enabled by default? Let's see. So now if we go to, this should have auto-deployed. I guess I can check my netlify thing. It won't be a local file, though. We're going to be loading it over the network from netlify. What was I doing? Okay, I need to log into netlify really quick. Last published 12/21. Add metadata to every flag. Oh, I haven't pushed up yet. So I'm going to push up the generated metadata file, metadata. And then that should deploy. And then I should be able to check to see if the file exists on the deployed site. So you can see, so I have this netlify project called ISO 3166 flags. It's starting this build. Post-processing done, site is live. So now I should be able to go to /dist/metadata.json, and we get the data back. What I was curious about, though, is does it just add cores headers by default? Because that'd be sweet. It doesn't, which is fine. I need to just add that netlify.toml file. There was a dev.to blog post I saw earlier. Netlify deploy cores for all static files. Netlify static JSON cores. This one. From Alex Merst. They gave us this. So if we create a netlify.toml file, and we throw that in there, now all of our files will have access control allow origin star. So that way when they're requested from netlify, they have that. So let's do it. We have another deploy. So this is the cool thing about netlify. You push up to GitHub, it auto deploys. It's pretty nice. So now, if I do this, we get access control allow origin star on this JSON file, which is great. So if I were to make a request for this file from within one of my apps that's running on a client, then it should allow it, which is good. Cool. And we can see I like that, USCO Denver. And so now you can take that route, you do svg/route.svg, and then that will give you back the actual SVG. And if you look at the code, the source of it, it actually has that metadata inside of it. Great. Let's consume this. Do I have an extension for JSON files? Oh, I'm using Firefox. So this is built into Firefox, the JSON viewer. You also could look at like raw data. But yeah, that's built into Firefox. When I use Chrome, I use a JSON viewer. I believe. Yeah, this is the one that I use inside of Chrome, but Firefox just has it built in. And welcome in, Google Bandito. Glad to have you. All right, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to go to my backend code, and we're going to make it so that when someone attempts to set their country flag, we validate it against the metadata here. So my backend is going to request this file, so now it has access to what all of the possible countries are. And then when someone attempts to set their flag, I'll make sure that it exists in here before setting it. And then after we get that working, because that'll be putting the flag name in the database, after we get that working, then we go to the front end, and then we use that specific route to choose the SVG file that should be displayed. Yeah, welcome in, Naya? Any tips or suggestions for someone who wants to learn coding or programming? Check out the coding train over on YouTube. So Dr. Daniel Schiffman, an amazing coder teacher. There's this playlist called Code, and that'll teach you how to do creative coding, and also like you'll make small games and stuff like that. This is really good to just wrap your mind around like what is coding. If you're looking to get a job with coding, that's a whole different beast because various jobs have various things that you need to know how to do, and so it'll be a different adventure than just learning how to code in general. And for that, I recommend either Free Code Camp or the Odin Project. So Free Code Camp is a completely free online curriculum for learning to code. And they have a bunch of different sections. So if you look at like responsive web design, you can see that they have this learn HTML, learn basic CSS, all of these courses that you can do. And then also for JavaScript, they have like learning how to comment code, what are variables, all of that good stuff. So Free Code Camp is really good. It does hold your hand a lot though. If you don't want your hand held, check out the Odin Project, which is another free online curriculum, but there's no built-in way of, like, so with Free Code Camp, when you're learning, you actually put your answers to questions in the browser, and you write your code in the browser, which is nice for, like, real beginners. It helps because you don't have to set things up. But the Odin Project basically is just it's almost like an open source book, and a curriculum and a bit of a guide. So if you look at their JavaScript course, each section is just an article, but they also have links to resources. Let's find a good example. Yeah, so this says, go read a book. It says, go read that book. Some of the lessons will also have, so you have like an introduction, but then you have these learning outcomes, like what you should be able to do by the end of the lesson. And then a lot of the lessons have this knowledge check section. So you can say, all right, I did the learning, but can I actually answer these questions and do these projects? So this is definitely a good resource as well. Yeah, Code Academy, I think some of the Code Academies are free, but a lot of it does cost money. Both Free Code Camp and the Odin Project are completely free. Nanakila, you can link a GitHub. Feel free. As long as it's appropriate. You can link anything you want. And then there's also things like CS50, which is a a computer science course from Harvard, but all of the resources and stuff like that are available. So and you can watch all of their lessons and stuff on YouTube. So cool. I know that was just a brain dump, but takeaway is Free Code Camp or the Odin Project. Just start there, and you might find other things as well. Yeah, I've suggested this repo before. This essentially has a bunch of project ideas. So if you already know how to code and you're looking for something to build, this repo has a bunch of beginner, intermediate, and advanced ideas. So if you're lost for ideas, that's a good place to start. Oh yeah. And then shout out to Learn with Leon. I don't know why I always forget. But they live stream here on Twitch. And I don't know if they've live streamed recently, but they're basically like an online boot camp on Twitch, and it's free. So yeah. I would say if you're attempting to find an entry-level job, the Odin Project, Free Code Camp, 100 Devs, Learn with Leon is a good place to start. Oh, you made a contribution to the Odin Project? That's good to hear, DJ Concarne. How would I add comment capabilities to something done with a front-end framework like Vue or Svelte? I mean, you'd need a back-end. There is this thing called Discuss, which you can embed in any website. That gives you comments on any website. So then you don't even have to build it into your own backend. You could just add this to any front end. But if you want to build it yourself, you just do it. you just do it. Oh, thank you for the bits, Naya. Much appreciated. But one thing you might be thinking about is like comment replies. And I've done this before where you actually can have recursive components. So you define one component called comment. And then comment has a replies section that repeats over an instance of a comment component. And then each of those replies could have replies. But any of those component libraries will work recursively. Yeah. Yeah, welcome in, Ampace. I'm doing good. We're going to be ending probably in like 30 minutes. Feel free to ask. I don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but feel free to ask. All right, let's get to coding. And actually, I want the this one. All right, I'm going to go to my backend code, which is a repo called API. I'm going to hide my screen just in case there's any environment variables or anything open whenever I open this up. And essentially right now in my backend code, there is a function that says get countries here. Welcome in, Alka. No, we actually did write some code today. This is just code we're going to write based on that code we wrote earlier. So right now, my backend uses this countries.json file, which is basically a description of all of the countries. I am just going to delete that. And now we're just going to make a request to that file. Right here. And what's nice is I used to make a request out to that REST country API, but then it got put behind a paywall. So then I just put the JSON file in here. But because the rest of my code already knows that or is depending on this being an async function, that means I can make a request with Axios. So I could say data is axios.get and then pass in that metadata URL. So this is where we put that metadata. That's going to give us back an array. And then really all we want to do is just say for each item, for each info, the name will be info.name, and the code will be info.route. Like that. And it should already be too lowercase. Ta-da! So essentially this will load all of the metadatas in, make them available, and then I should see everywhere that I'm calling get countries. Not that. Not that. Why do I require it in multiple times? Oh, I don't. I just do it right here. So we get all of the countries. Then the country lookup is going to be what someone tries to set their country to. In this case, like US or US/CO. And then if it works, they'll set their country to... yeah, that'll be an object that has code and name. Easy. So that should be backwards compatible. And then we update it. That should be all we need to do. Yeah, so right now I'm using the cache. Yeah, so get countries has a little cached variable here. So it will only make the HTTP request the first time. I guess technically this needs to be a promise. Here, there's a better way to write this. So where we have this promise, because otherwise, like if this would only happen when the code first loads, where if multiple things try to request countries, it's going to actually, where do I use this? Countries is that. Actually, I think I can just do this. Something like this. I can say value is a new map like that. And then this whole thing returns that map. So this is it's async, so it's a promise that returns a map. The first time this thing is called, countries doesn't exist, so then we fire off that promise and then we return the promise. Then if other pieces of code call that same promise, they're just going to be waiting on that promise. And then finally, when that promise resolves to the map, anytime we call this in the future, we're just going to get that resolved promise. Instead of value, I'm going to call this result. Right? Right? That should be it. Am I caching the countries because spamming the Netlify server is not the best thing to happen? Yeah. So that's, I mean, before I was technically caching it on first request, but that didn't handle if multiple things made the request for countries before we actually had the countries. And so now that I put it into a promise, this should work. I'm going to do the thing where I deploy to production. Wait, why did the service itself change? To do limit status length. Oh, I guess I just never committed that. Okay. I'm gonna do the thing where I commit to production and just hope that it works. Does await work on the promise inside the promise? Yeah, I mean, this is honestly difficult to explain, but basically, yeah, you're totally right. Metadata.min. Good call, because it doesn't matter, and now it has to transfer less data. First try, yeah, I mean, I have not been getting any first tries lately, but technically, countries is a promise. We returned that promise, and then over here in the commands, we await that promise. So in the future, when the promise is already resolved, we get the resolved value. Welcome in, Drills. You're up to date. Okay. We are now writing this code. Use country. Use flags metadata. So, like I said, I just committed it. Oh, well, I forgot to... I gotta commit the minified. Pushed it up. I'm gonna deploy it. And then... my deployed server is a little bit messed up right now. Okay, I think it's all right. PM2. Yeah, I'm just going to assume it worked. The only way to test it is by trying to... I guess, I mean, technically... But, okay, here's the thing. I could test it by right now setting my flag to US Colorado. So if I do this, and then now the flag is missing, that means the backend accepted the value, put it onto my user, but now my front end doesn't know what to do with this value because it's not using our flags library. So let's update the front end. And this is in a project called SproutKit. It's essentially all of the components for like my overlays and stuff like that. Mind if I come up with a whole refactor with an API, a web page with info on each? Oh no, feel free. Yeah, the only thing is here are the rules of thumb that we've decided for this repo. When a user makes a pull request, they do not touch the metadata. So they do not touch that at all. If they make a pull request, they only need to add an SVG, and that SVG needs to contain a metadata. We can look at the raw data, this raw data, and that thing needs to include a metadata field with name and route. Yeah. So that's really the only rules of the repo. I am totally not opposed. So right now, when you go to the landing page, it just says this. It would be great if we showed literally all of the flags, and then we had like an input box where you could search for the flag, and then we also show like the name and where it comes and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm. This repo is for the community. I don't. This isn't one of the things where I want to always work on it on stream. Because this repo, I think, is going to outlive the coding garden, right? Like once we get enough flags and everything in here, like this will be the de facto repo that has all the flags of the world inside of it. So yeah, feel free. And the thing is, like, I don't want backend code. Like, I don't want an API because I'm deploying to Netlify with static files. Technically, it could be a serverless function, but like that's why I like generated flags. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Right now the whole thing is called ISO 3166. So maybe not. Like, we're gonna stick to countries, provinces, and states, so not other types of flags. I think that would just open up a rabbit hole if we did all kinds of other flags. Yeah, but it does all of that handling with serverless functions. I do not want serverless functions because then I would have to potentially pay for those serverless functions. I want completely static files. And one of the things I will do on here is to create a GitHub action or probably a Netlify build script that generates these JSON files. So whatever you do, don't write backend code, don't write API code, write code that would generate static files that could be consumed in that way. And ultimately, we could write a build script that Netlify would run on merge that generates all of that stuff. Yeah. Cool. But yeah, feel free to work on it, make a PR, and I'll take a look. Okay, where were we? Our front end is now going to allow those countries to be set. So if we look on our front end, do we have a get countries? Oh no, I think actually on the user info component, if country code is set, then we just put it in the CSS. In this case, now instead of putting it in the CSS, we actually just want to load the SVG. I'm curious where country code gets passed in. Country code is a prop on the chat card. And if we look at these components, country code, if user.country is a thing, pass user.country.code. Cool. That is great. That's going to make our lives a whole lot easier because now, well, no, I need it on the SK user info. If country code is a thing, instead of doing flag icon dash, we actually just need to embed a little image here. So we can get rid of this class. We no longer want to bind it. I'm curious, do I have a flag icon class that I defined in here? I don't. That's actually coming from that library, the existing library that we were using. Do I have a country CSS? Font size 1 rem. We'll probably get rid of that as well. But now, image, source, we're going to throw this whole URL in there with backticks. But now it's not metadata, it's SVG slash country code dot SVG. And then we can give this a class of country image. And now, the moment I saved it, it tried to load those country flags, but I need to actually whitelist the country's URL. That's hilarious that it's... did I spell it wrong? My L key might be... you're right. Country flag makes a lot more sense. So, country flag... for now, we'll just say has a width of 2 rem, and then height should be auto. 3 rem? Four rem. Yeah, seems fine. But now, now I need to load that. So Netlify should handle all of the caching for me. Because it's a static build and a static deploy, Netlify knows if the build has run or changed, so it should be serving those images from its own cache. Ideally, I think. I don't know exactly how Netlify works. But regardless, I need to whitelist this domain. Or sorry, allow list it, so that the images will actually load. We'll put it at the bottom. No, we'll put it right here. I really just want that to reload. Would you look at that? It It works. And then, I mean, obviously we have to adjust the styles, but now, like if I say hi, I should see the Colorado flag. Yeah, look at that. Oof. Ooh, this is definitely some first try stuff. But let's make it smaller. Two rem? That's better. Nice. But now, okay, so here's the thing. When we render the American flag, it doesn't know what to do with all of those stars at an SVG at that allow this domain. You're right. Cool. So for those of you that want to set the flag, a title attribute with full name be possible? Yeah. So I mean I would need to update my API. So right now we're just throwing out. Oh no, we have the name. So technically we could use that name. Like let's see if does mine say Denver on it? Because technically we're reading that name in. No, it doesn't. I don't even remember how we were showing on hover. So this would have been in probably the Coding Garden chat card. And Stony Eagle. Ah! Whoa. Why'd you do that? Thank you so much. 30 gifted subs? Wow, you just hit a bunch of people. So many people got subbed just now. Thank you so much, Stony Eagle. You're too kind. You're way too kind. I don't know what prompted that, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Oh man. 10% of viewers just got gifted. Don't quit. Oh, I'm not gonna quit. I'm not gonna quit. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. You're very kind, and I appreciate having you in this community. Cool. What were we doing? Oh yeah, on hover. If country is a thing, country.name. I'm very kind. Thanks for the stretch, Neno. Oh, there's a discount. Wait, is that on gifted subs, though? I don't know if it is. I thought it was just on individual subs, but regardless, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. This should work, because we put the name in here. If we look back at the metadata, yeah, it has a name. If we look for Denver, the name is Denver there. And Sledge Dog, thank you for the bits. Much appreciated. It's 25% off gifted? Wow. That's crazy. There's a sub-only Discord channel. There is, yeah. It's not active. I mean, I'm not active on Discord. I just don't have the time right now. Eventually I want to be, but should I do a subathon? I have to come up with the right amount of minutes added per sub gift. But yeah, if you look on the Discord, there is a supporters section. It's down here. You're a Twitch sub, right? Yeah, you should see that. Right? Was it expanded? Not expanded? Hopefully the permissions are right. I might need to update the permissions there. 1 hour per gift. No way. I mean, I would be streaming, like, if we did 1 hour per gift on that gift bomb just now, I would be streaming for 30 hours. Like, yeah. But yeah, thank you, Stony Eagle. All right. Technically, we have flags in the overlay. I guess the only issue is the country name. Okay, yeah, so that says Antarctica. Why doesn't mine say Denver? But also, are you still here? Yeah, American 2050. Can you set yours? I mean, obviously you don't want to dox yourself, but you added a bunch of the Argentina flags. Can you? Well, I guess they don't have names. We want... I'm trying to test a flag that's not a top-level country. You have a subregion. But we need a subregion with... Oh, yeah, look. So this works. This says Phoenix. For whatever reason, mine doesn't say Denver. Maybe I disable it because I'm the streamer. But, yeah, that works. Because it says Phoenix, which is good. Okay, this is a good first step, right? Like, I love that we made this much progress, right? Because we have the repo going. This repo has this metadata. We can use this metadata to specifically render an SVG. One thing we can do in the future is generate some CSS. So that way, instead of having to manually specify an image like this, we could do the thing where we say, like, ISO 3166 flag dash US Colorado Denver. And if we see this CSS class name, we actually give it an image as a background. Yeah, so Nano has it. That's Wales. I know that because last time somebody was trying to set their flag to Wales. So that's cool. Yeah, that works too. Look at that. Okay, so which one is that, Drills? That's the one with the weird aspect ratio? Yeah. But, right. Cool. But I'm going to add an issue here. A city flag. Okay. Paris. I'm curious at what the aspect ratio is for Paris. Oh, it wouldn't even be there. It would be FR slash... Oh. FR slash P? No, FR slash 75. Aspect ratio of 1. It's literally a square. Oh, there we go. There's that one. Can you remind us where that flag is from? Nice. Yeah, but that's Nepal, yeah. I'm curious if we render SVG to PNG, would it fix this weird issue where, like, right now, now you can see it's it's trying to render all of the stars on the flag, and it can't because there's just so many of them. So how do we fix that? There's literally 50 SVG paths on inside of that. Yeah. Oh, this should work. Yeah. So yours is United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So for all of the top level ones, it works. But and let me just, I lost track of what I was doing. Create CSS library. Can I remove groups based on resolution? So what you would do, Alka, is you would find the path. So if you look at the metadata file, which you can see here or in the GitHub repo, search for the one you want to set. Yeah, so for you specifically, hopefully I too lowercase it, because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it worked. Okay, cool. So, it should be lowercase, but that worked. Yeah, and then it says Houston. Nice! It took us 2 years, but we're finally here. Can you have two flags, city and country? Not opposed to it. or country and city. It would kind of start to get crowded though if we had a lot of them. Yeah. Your region is a... Wait, is this your region? It looks kind of like Superman. It's blue and red. Okay, did I open that issue? I created it. Great. What was I going to do before that? If I have multiple, switch between them in the render. Oh, like I could... Yeah. Like it could swap between like US and then like the state flag. Ciudad Autónoma de Buenos Aires. That's your flag. Cool. Okay. I think I'm done. What did I want to say? I keep losing track of what I was going to talk about. Yeah, so it would be really nice if on the homepage we let you search through all of the flags, and then that would give you the specific code that you need to run to set it as your flag. So yeah. Would be nice to expand on hover. Oh, like expand the flag? Not opposed to that. HTTP 404 set theirs to unknown. Did you do that on purpose? Because that's kind of amazing. I'm pretty sure you did it on purpose, because everything else you have is not found. But technically, you can do !flag unknown, and it'll set it to the unknown flag. Yeah, they did it on purpose. Cool. Oh, add alias? I'm not opposed to it. If you open up an issue on the GitHub repo, we can have a discussion around it. Because then, yeah, so if there's an alias attribute, then we can use that. Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. No, the zoom doesn't work. That's what I was trying to find. How does... Not zoom, scale. It's scale. Somebody might have corrected me. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, like that. A surprising number of people not in the US. Unknown. Okay. Yeah, when it's the US, scale hugely. Yeah. It's so funny, like, the farther you go in... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, the farther you zoom in, the better it gets. Like, the more stars you can see. Like that. See? Like, that's actually... it looks decent. But that is just, like, it's just a clump of stuff. Huh. Milwaukee. Nice. Bike creeper. I do like the scale feature because like a flag like this with so much detail, like how else am I going to see all of that detail? Like that. Wait, the US flag is 4 megabytes? No way. No way. No way. It's 1 kilobyte. 1 kilobyte. Is there a rendering option for SVGs? I don't know if you'd be able to set it, because right now we're just putting it into an image tag. Yeah, right now we're just putting it like that. Like one thing we could do is generate like 500 pixel versions or maybe even 52 pixel versions, and then those could have a smaller file size. Generate PNGs. Generate scaled PNGs. Cool. And then another issue is create build task to run on Netlify deploy. And then this will generate metadata.json, generate PNG images, generate CSS library, etc. Cool. Do I have your permission to use them in my own projects? Yes, you do. So, but take a look at the repo, because the one that we forked it from mentions that there are certain flags that have a special license. Otherwise, you're free to use it. The code itself is MIT license. But the individual flags, you might have to be careful with. What size is it rendering at on the overlay? Let's see. 32. 32 by 21. Yeah. Won't SVGs always look better no matter the size? Maybe even smaller at smaller flags. Well, yeah, the one issue that we were running into is the US flag, so check it out. Why does nobody have the US flag? It's just me at this point. I guess because in the repo, the US is one of the only countries where we have a bunch of... There you go, Sound of Gaming. Just say... Well, I guess there's a 10-second... Is everyone going to set their flag to US now? All I wanted to show was, for whatever reason, you can see how this SVG is rendering, but then when you zoom in, it's actually 50 individual paths, 50 stars. But when you look at it like that, for whatever reason, it looks so weird. So that's what we were talking about, how, yes, most of the time SVGs will render at any dimension or size, but for whatever reason, it's having some serious issues when there's a bunch of icons in there. Yeah. And what's up, Joe Mill? We specifically created this repo because there's a lot of missing flags on a lot of the existing ones. I've never heard of flag CDN, but we were using a flag CSS library. So 254 country flags, 50 flags of US states, EU, and United Nations. Yeah, so we already had country flags using some other CSS library. We didn't have the US flags yet, so we added those. But we created this repo so that people can contribute more flags. So one of the contributions that was recently made was adding all the flags for Argentina. So American 2050, who lives in Argentina, added all of these, which are the specific states or provinces within Argentina. And so that's why we created our own repo, is because there's a lot that don't exist on these. Well, let's see. Like, if we look for Argentina, and Limeoats, thank you for the resub. Can we see, do they have the provinces? Flags of neighboring countries. Specifically, I want the provinces inside of Argentina. North America? regardless, that's why we started this repo, is because I'm pretty sure a lot of these are missing from these libraries and such. For lower resolution, you can use CSS for media query. Yeah, if we specifically generate all of the PNGs at different resolutions, yeah, then we could also have CSS that dynamically loads that. But all the code is there. Oh, you know what? We can test it out in this one. It doesn't. I don't think it looks as horrible. So we're specifically looking at the US flag here. So this is rendering inside of Chrome as a browser overlay. I feel like that looks better. Yeah. I mean, does it look better though? Actually, check this out. You can see that it renders two different ways. So you see yours rendered like this. But then for whatever reason, America 2050's looks super weird. Remove transparency on the flag class. There is none. So there's only transparency on the background. Oh well, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah. What's up, Hackty? Yeah, I'm making a lot of code. I've been streaming for 3.5 hours. I've written actually a ton of code. I wrote code that generates this metadata based on all of the SVG files. I went through and updated all of these SVG files to now include a metadata section, so that when people are contributing flags, they can include a name and also the aspect ratio of their flag. And then all of that's deployed for free here on Netlify, so that way we can consume this metadata. So I updated my API so that it would have access to this so people can set their flags. And then I updated my front end so that people can set their flags based on that. So yeah, I've written a lot of code today. What have you done? What are you doing with your life? All right, I'm going to go now. Can I open what on my local map? No, the overlay doesn't have transition because it... I guess technically it would, but there's no way to interact with the overlay because it's running in OBS. I guess technically you can't. I don't think you can do a hover state, though. What did I miss? Okay, I'll try to answer MPace's questions if I can. First thing is, what do I recommend as a program to get started in the web app field? Python, PHP, JavaScript. Second, if I think Udemy would be a good asset, where do I learn in the right way to eventually find a job? Cool, I can try to answer this for you. The only thing is, if I recommend a Udemy course, I'll say it whenever I recommend it, but I have not taken any of these Udemy courses. So the only thing you should go on are their reviews and if you trust the instructor and such. But I wholeheartedly believe, I don't even know if that's the right way to use that term, but I absolutely believe that web development with JavaScript is one of the most accessible ways to learn to code and then also to find a job. There are more web development programming jobs than there are a lot of other programming jobs. So I'm biased, obviously, because I'm in that industry, but I haven't always been in that industry. I got a computer science degree. I used to do desktop development. And this was over 10 years ago. I saw how basically the web is like the ultimate application distribution platform. Like you can build a website, literally anybody in the world can go to that website. You can build a web app, so that is an app running on a web page. Anybody can go to that web app. Whereas if you learn Python and you want people to use the things that you write, let's say you write like a Python game or something like that, it's tricky to figure out how do you get that Python game or that Python app that you wrote and how do you make it available for someone else. Technically, you could use Python to write backend code, like a backend web API, but you would still need JavaScript, HTML, and CSS on your front end to be able to consume that API. So my suggestion is, yes, learn web development. I talked about this earlier, but I would absolutely recommend the Odin project. If you go view full curriculum, You definitely want to start at the foundations because that's going to teach you all the basic stuff, and then go into full stack JavaScript. So this will teach you about front end, the JavaScript language itself, and then back end with Node.js. And this entire curriculum is completely self-paced. Like the website technically allows you to keep track of all the things, but I mentioned it earlier. If you go through this course and you do everything that it tells you, it's a bunch of reading. Honestly, it's a bunch of reading and video watching. Like it's not that exciting because it's just a lot of work. And really, learning to code is a lot of work. Obviously, you're going to learn cool things and you'll be able to do cool things eventually, but it's a lot of work. So, for instance, if you go in here to these HTML concepts, you look at the introduction, you'll read about this, and then you have an assignment. So this assignment says, read through this article. Don't commit it to memory, but just have a glance. And then take a glance at this cheat sheet. Don't worry about anything specific, move on. So this is giving you high-level assignments of read a thing and become familiar with it, but there are also assignments that are specifically build a thing. So like, this tells you watch these videos, go through this documentation. A lot of these articles also have knowledge check. So basically you can self-assess. You can try to learn this stuff and then go through all of these questions and make sure that you can answer them. So this is a way to check to make sure that you actually understand the topics that were covered. Let's see if there's... Let's talk about SVGs. We're working with SVGs today. What is the XML_NS attribute? Can anybody answer that? We worked with it today. What's XML_NS? XML namespace. Yeah, you got it. So yeah, Odin project I think is really good. But yeah, if you look on Udemy, probably the thing you want to search for is full stack web development. And there are a couple of really popular courses. One from Colt Steele and another one from her, Dr. Angela Yu. So these two are very highly... they're very well reviewed, and there's probably a few others. These are the main two that I know about. But essentially, this is an entire course that teaches all of the things that you would learn at a coding boot camp. And there are various types of coding boot camps. Like some of them last maybe 3 months, some of them last 6 or 7 months. These courses technically cover all of the same topics that you would learn in a boot camp. So if you pick one of these, you're pretty much going to learn all the stuff you need to get employed. It's not going to be all you need. You still have to do a lot of work outside of these courses. But these definitely provide a really good guideline as to what you need to do. I can't recommend either of these because I haven't taken them. I know people that have taken them and have been able to get jobs. Obviously, this wasn't the only thing they did. They did other stuff to be able to get a job as well. But this is, if you are self-teaching, you're not actually going to a boot camp, these courses help keep everything in line and help guide you as to what you're actually going to be doing. So yeah, my suggestion, learn web development. It's going to be way easier to find a job. It's going to be way easier to share the things that you build with other people. And there are an enormous number of online resources to learn web development. So yeah, I think learn web development. These types of courses are what I would suggest. I can't suggest any specific ones because I haven't taken them myself, but they're only $30 right now. I think every now and then there will be a sale when you could get this course for probably like $5 or $10. So I would just wait till it goes on sale. And that's how much you would pay for lunch or a dinner, depending on where you live in the world. So to only pay the price of one meal to learn everything you need to know to get a job, I think is worth it. So yeah, those are my answers to that. I think you had a follow-up. Yeah, and then Code Academy is another place to learn as well. Yeah, and see you later, Mark Boots. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, Brazil looks all right. But, oh no, you see that? Like, the moment it zooms out, there's like a bunch of aliasing. Yeah. Yeah, and really, I think that's the thing. Like, wait till those courses are on sale, and then don't fall into the trap of, oh, I paid so much money for this course, I might as well complete it. If it's not working, pick something else. Yeah. All right, so last question. I love Vite, but I really need to ask you something. I installed Sass and CSS, was injected via JavaScript. If I remove the JavaScript file and add a link to my styles.sass, it works perfectly, even without compiling CSS. Is it a horrible way to work, or can I work without compiling CSS? Last is, do I also teach coding? I mean, I'm teaching coding right now. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention it, but eventually, I mean, we're probably at least a year away at this point. I am going to release a course like this eventually. It's going to take a really long time. You can see that this course, both of these courses have over 60 hours of video. And on top of that, there are projects, assignments, resources of all kinds. I eventually want to make a course like this. Whenever you search full stack on Udemy, the Coding Gardens course is going to pop up eventually. There's enough time between now and when I actually make that course that you could probably be employed by then. So don't wait for my course. But yeah, my goal is to start releasing courses. And to answer your question, I don't think this is a horrible way. The thing is, we actually did a similar thing when I was setting up a post CSS project where we were using Vite for all of the stuff when at the end of the day, I only cared about the Sass files, about the CSS files. Specifically, post CSS has a post CSS CLI. And if you look at the Sass language, they probably have, I guess really, if you just looked at Sass, which is what's used by Vite, you technically could probably run this from the command line. Yeah, like compile. So I guess what you're asking is, you're using Vite, it's generating JavaScript, but you actually don't care about the JavaScript, you just want the styles. So how do you go about that? How do you go about, like, you don't want the generated JavaScript, you just want the generated CSS. I don't think it's horrible to just ignore the generated JavaScript. That said, you could set up a build pipeline that only bundles your Sass. For that, you probably would want to use something like gulp or just like roll up directly. I think I mentioned it last time you were here, but there's that. There is a video from Coder where she talked about how to set up a Sass project. Not the 4-hour course. There's like a quick 15-minute. Yeah, browser sync, Sass, and gulp. So this would be an alternative to Vite, but you could set it up in a way that that doesn't compile the JavaScript. Basically, you would set this up so it only compiles your CSS. You can't figure out how to compile CSS from Sass. Yeah, so that video will help you, but at the end of the day, the things that are happening under the hood are the same thing as Vite, except you can be more specific and say, I only want the CSS to be generated. So yeah, technically, yeah, you could create a custom rollup config for Vite that only compiles the CSS. But regardless, I don't know if this is what you were asking, but you do need a build step. There's no way to take the Sass and just run that directly in the browser. You need some tool that's going to convert that Sass into CSS. So yeah. Yeah, and there are a ton of free courses as well. So if you check out Wes Boss, you look on his courses, he has several free ones. So he's got JavaScript 30, which is free, CSS Grid, Flexbox, Command Line Power User, Redux. He's got a bunch of free courses. Definitely check him out. And then Crafty Becky, what's up? He says, I've paired the Colt Steel with Brad Traversy's 50 Projects, 50 Days on top of Treehouse Learning. Cool. So that's another course on Udemy from Brad Traversy. 50 projects in 50 days. Yeah, I think this was a collaboration with Floor and Pop as well. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and then, I mean, I have never used Loracast as a resource, but I know that it's from the people that do Laravel, but they also have lots of resources for learning stuff that's not just Laravel and PHP. Let's see, languages. Let's say if I want to learn JavaScript. Yeah, I mean, they've got a ton here. Cool. I've never really used them as a resource. Did we already learn something about WebGPU? I've never talked about WebGPU before, or WebGL. Is WebGPU a thing? Yeah. Cool. Where I do behind the scenes while creating one chapter. Yeah, I need to figure it out though. Like, if I want to like basically record and create my course live, I'd have to figure out what I was gonna do. So, yeah. No worries on Pace. Like, I specifically stream and I like to create a community where we help beginners. We help people that have misconceptions, confusion, because I know it can be really hard to, for one, to even figure out what question you want to ask, right? Like, you know there's a thing you want to do, but you don't even know how to formulate it into a question. So for me, it's actually enjoyable to try and figure out, okay, what are you actually asking and how can I help you in that question that you're asking? Yeah. It works if it has a name, but I was just curious why when we hover it doesn't... Oh, there it is. Oh, you know what? It was probably in... The message was too short? I don't know. So WebGPU would be a way to access the GPU from web code. Is that what it is? I've never done it before. Yeah. Yeah, and like that's the other thing is like if you really want to look into it, you can look for a coding bootcamp or a coding school. Like, it is completely possible to get a job and start a career in software without going to any kind of school, with completely doing self-teaching. But coding boot camps, can I get a list of coding boot camps? If you do want in-person learning and guidance and stuff like that, there are a lot of boot camps. I think there are completely online ones as well. I know nothing about any of these coding boot camps, but they do actually, a lot of them cost a good bit of money. Some of them you don't have to pay until you actually get a job, but regardless, that's another route, another option as well. I don't have an alt. Yeah, I guess technically, well, I have the alt text set as the country code, but yeah. All right. Yeah, I used to work at Galvanize. All right. I gotta go now. Yeah, it would take some research to find like what are the best boot camps right now, or what are ones that have decent reviews and have decent practices. Like, the issue is like there are a lot of these coding boot camps are just in it for the money. I mean, most of them are in it for the money fundamentally because they are a company of sorts. But a lot of them are in it for the money, but then like don't care about the student journey, don't care about the quality of their instructors or the quality of their curriculum, or they don't have like an outcome-based curriculum and they don't have an outcomes team. Like, if you are researching boot camps, you should definitely look for boot camps that don't just teach you or say that they're going to teach you and then after the class is over, they're done. A good coding boot camp is also going to have career coaches and people to review your resume and potentially have industry connections so they can help get you interviews at certain companies, and other various things like that. So, yeah. Cool. Yeah, and I think I had an alt text set. So I have it set to the code, but I don't think it's showing up because of the hover. Yeah. Yeah, and then you can look at their placement rates, which say how many people got a job after a certain number of months of graduating. All of that. Okay, I'm going to go now. Let's go on a raid. Before all of that, some people asked about it earlier, but you can see my schedule here. I will be streaming tomorrow night. We're going to be working on the CRUD client that I started with Vue. So tune in for that. And then also I'll be streaming on Friday. If you want go live notifications, sign up for the email. Oh, I see what you're saying. Title, not alt. Okay, I can add that. It's easy. It's easy. So now when I hover US, like that. Okay. I do go live notifications, so if you're not getting the Twitch go live notification or even the Discord notification, if you join the mailing list, I'll let you know there. And that's about it. Follow me over on YouTube. I have a Twitter too. Let's go on a raid. Non-country flag. It'll give us the code like FR75. Yeah. Raid. So if you are a sub, you can use this raid message. And if you are not a sub, you can use this raid message. You can also come up with your own raid message. I don't know who we're gonna raid, but whoever we raid, show them lots of love. Drop a follow if you like what they're doing. Be respectful, all that good stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow evening. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.